Good morning, welcome to Scrummy Cooking Kitchen. As it's a bit of a sort of rainy, miserable, cold day outside, I thought it was a brilliant day to do a little bit of baking. So again, I'm going to do some low carb baking. If you want to not do low carb and just do normal, then I'll tell you what to do as we go through the recipe. So today I'm going to make some cheese scones. I absolutely love cheese scones, and they make quite a good snack, or you can have them with soup, or you could have them for lunch filled with something, but I like them sort of relatively warm, slathered with butter, so you know, everybody has their own favourite. Anyway, so it's very easy. I'm going to show you what to do, and let's crack on. So the first thing I need is my low carb ultrafine fibre flour, and I want 3/4 cup. That's roughly about 120 grams if you don't have cup measures, and that's about 4 ounces. So let's just get some of that out. One of those. And one of those. Just move that over there because I'm going to need that for rolling. Okay, so to that I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. Actually, I'm going to make it a heaped teaspoon because sometimes you make these with self-raising flour. So if you didn't have the ultrafine fibre flour and you wanted to make them full of carbs, then you could use self-raising flour, or you could use plain flour with some baking powder in it. So that's quite a heaped teaspoon of baking powder, but I want them to fluff. I'm also going to put in 1/4 teaspoon of salt and some mustard powder. Now the reason I'm putting mustard powder in is because it really brings out the flavour of the cheese. So you won't taste mustard if you don't like the flavour of mustard, but you will get an enhanced flavour on your cheese. It will feel much more, it will give you that sort of umami flavour. If you don't have mustard powder, you could use plain mustard, but then I'd put that in with the wet ingredients. So that goes in. That was just 1/4 teaspoon with a little extra tiny bit for luck. Okay, so next I'm going to put some butter in. So I've got about 30 grams of butter, which is about 1 ounce. And I'm just going to rub that into my flour mixture in the same way that you would rub a crumble or pastry. I just want that butter to disappear, and we're going to end up with something that sort of resembles breadcrumbs. It's quite a lot you can do with scones, so you could make them plain and you could put sort of raisins or chocolate chips or nuts or whatever you like in them, or you could just have them plain with a bit of jam and cream on them, like you would if you have an afternoon tea. You can make them savoury, obviously, with cheese. Sometimes instead of the mustard I put Marmite in there. That will gross some people out, but I'm one of the lovers rather than the haters. You could put herbs in if you wanted to. You can kind of make them taste exactly how you want. This is just like a basic recipe. So this is what you would do, and then before you put your liquid in, you add your flavouring. It's fairly simple, really. They're quick to do, and the thing is, this is only, I don't know, we would probably make 4 or 5 out of this, but you can make as many as you want. I find they're always better on the day that you make them, which is why I make a small batch. So the following day, they're starting to go a little bit hard, even in an airtight container, but you can just pop them back in the oven and refresh them a little bit, and they're fine then. They're always nicer when they're warm anyway. Right, so I've got my breadcrumb effect. Let's just get that on there so that you can see. Okay. Right, so next I'm going to add my cheese. Now I have got 80 grams of cheese, I've got some mature cheddar and I've got some parmesan. It's about 3 ounces and I'm going to pop that in like so. Just mix it round so you get a nice even amount of cheese in your mixture. There we go. Right, let's move on to the liquid. Now I'm going to make a hole in the middle, and the next bit is quite important because unlike when you're making bread and you've got to knead it, with this, because we're using baking powder as our raising agent, we don't want to knead it at all. We want to kind of touch it as little as possible. So I'm going to bring it together with a knife for the most part, and then finally do it with my hands. But that's it, I'm not going to knead it then, I'm going to go straight on to the cutting, because the less you touch it and play with it, the better your rise is going to be. If you start messing around and kneading it and you know, just kind of squidging it, it's just going to end up really, really hard, more like a rock cake than a scone. So we don't want to do that. Right, so let me bring in my liquid. I'm going to use buttermilk just because I really like the flavour. You could just use normal milk. If you wanted to give a buttermilk flavour but you didn't have buttermilk, you could put a bit of lemon juice, like a teaspoon of lemon juice in the milk, and that would work fine. So I'm going to use my cup measures again, just because I've got them out and it's easy. So I'm going to take a cup full, not a cup full, this is 1/4 of a cup. So I'm going to just put that in, that's the buttermilk. And then I'm going to add the same again of milk. Now if you're doing it with plain flour, that should be more than enough. But because I'm using the fibreflour, the fibre soaks up the liquid. So it may not be enough, but I can add a little bit more if necessary. I no longer need the buttermilk because if I'm adding any more, it's going to be just ordinary milk. If I did it all buttermilk, it would be a little bit rich. So I've watered it down slightly with the buttermilk. So that's like 1/2 cup I've got in there so far. 1/2 buttermilk, 1/2 milk. And now I'm going to mix it with my knife. And I'm literally just going to try and bring it together in a dough. I do not want it to be too dry with this flour because the fibre will go on absorbing the liquid. When I get to the end, if you were using normal flour, you want the same consistency that I've got, but it's just that the liquid that you add to this recipe might be different to what you would add to if you were using plain flour. So that's still too dry because I've got lots of flour at the bottom. So I'm just going to add a little dash. We'll do this a little bit at a time because we don't want it to be soggy, but by the same token we don't want it to be dry. I think that's going to be enough. That's good. Now I'm just going to literally leave that to sit for a minute because I want that fibre to start soaking up some of that liquid. So let's move that out of the way while I do. I'll just wash my hands, even though they're going to get messy again. Okay, so I can also move this lot out of the way, just so that I've got plenty of room to roll. Right, I should put that away later. Okay, so I have my dough now, and I'm going to take some more flour for the rolling. So I'm just going to bring it out. As I say, it'll look more wet than it would, slightly more wet, if you were not using this flour. But if you don't with this flour, I find it goes a little bit dry when it's cooked. So that's good. Okay. So actually, I'm not going to bother rolling it because that is fine. I don't want to play with it too much. If I had a big batch, I'd roll it out a little bit. But you can see the depth I've got. It's about 1 inch. And now I want my cutter. So with my cutter, I'm going to go straight down like so, and I'm not going to wiggle. The reason I'm not going to wiggle is because it will help give a nice wall for the scone to rise. So I've got 1, ooh, that one's nice to come out straight away, and 3, there's 3, if I can get it out, there we go. Let's get my tray. And then I'm not going to squish this. I'm literally going to bring it together like this, trying not to play with it too much. There's another one. Try and get that out. Just push it out gently. There we go. And then I shan't worry about cutting this. This is just going to be what it'll be. There's an extra one. So I've made 5. Okay, so the only thing I want to do now is just brush that with a little bit of milk, just to get a nice colour. So let's bring back the milk. I use the top of the milk to just put a little bit in. I'm going to use my fingers today. Normally I'd get the brush out, but I can use my fingers and then I can wash this lid before I put it back on. Right, so let's just put a little bit of milk over the top. So hopefully we'll give it a nice colour. So I'm going to put this in a hot oven. I need to heat the oven up, which I would have done at the beginning, but the fan sound will be a bit annoying. So I'm going to heat the oven to 200 fans, so that would be 220 if you didn't have a fan oven, and that's about 430 I think Fahrenheit, but I will put the details in the recipe underneath. Right, there we go. They are ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to heat the oven now and put them in and cook them for about 12 minutes. While I do that, I'm going to clear everything away and then I will come back and show you the results once we're done. All right, see you soon. Hi, so we're back. They took about 18 minutes in the oven to cook and here they are. So let's get them nice and close to this camera. They've got a nice colour on them. They've risen nicely, they've expanded both ways. You know with your mixture, if you put too much water, too much liquid in it, they will go flat and wide, so they'll look more like a pancake. So then obviously next time put less liquid in. And if you don't put enough liquid in, they'll be really, really dry and crumbly. But I think these are going to be pretty good. Let's just open them up. And hope for the best. There we go. Nice and crumbly. And that, still a bit warm yet, with a nice bit of butter on, because I don't know about you, but there's nothing I like more than a nice warm scone out of the oven, covered in lots of butter. Delicious. Right, lovely. Well, that's it for me today. If you've liked this video, please like it. All comments are always welcome, so if you've got any comments, please let me know. If you like the things that I'm doing, then please subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell if you want to know when there's a new video coming up. As I've said before, I'm kind of focusing on low carb recipes in January. So I'm hoping that you've got some inspiration from this, that you can still bake really delicious things even if you're on a low carb lifestyle. So that's all from me for now. I shall see you soon. Take care. Bye.